You are live at the Literary Lounge with your host, Destiny D, bringing you the newest and the brightest of the literary world right to your ear hole. Every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in, listen up, and learn something. This is the spot for new hot authors who are given the opportunity to shine. Each Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will showcase a new author here at the Literary Lounge. We are taking out the time to give all of our literary friends an opportunity to showcase their work. The new Author Spotlight is a platform that allows us to ask up to 10 questions or more to give you, the audience, the most in-depth current information about each writer in their literary piece. We will have a new guest every week. Stay tuned. Hey, 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 this is your girl, Destiny D, live on WTLR Radio. And guess what? You are tuned into the Literary Lounge. And today's special guest we have is none other than Brother Ty Robinson. And we're going to be talking about his new current release titled Brothers and Kings. So we need you to stay tuned and listen in and turn up your radio so that you can listen in on this 1 hour long interview. I hope you enjoy it. So let's get him on the line right quick. Give me 1 second. Y'all know how this studio time is. All right. Okay, Ty, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yay! Okay, so happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be here today. So I want to give you the opportunity to actually give yourself like a formal introduction to let everybody know who you are and where you're rapping from.
Okay. My name is Tahir Robinson, but I go by Ty. My name is hard to say. And I'm originally from Philadelphia, but I've been living in Harrisburg, PA since I was about 11. I go back and forth, but I still rap Philly.
Okay,
And,
okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah, more. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay, so can you let us know how did your actual writing career begin?
I would say it began when I was a kid, because I used to write short stories and in notebooks, and I always liked reading. My favorite day of the year at school, other than the last day of school, was Scholastic Week when we got to order books, and I would always hit my mom up for money, saying to get books, and I really enjoyed reading a lot because I wasn't a very talkative kid and was kind of antisocial, didn't really like people much, so I liked books, and then I started writing. As I write essay contests, I pretty much won them all. And
okay.
then I started writing when I was locked up, like full-length novels.
Oh, wow. Okay. So with the writing and everything that you did as a child, did you ever go back and try to like put out those particular stories, or did they kind of get lost in the shuffle?
Those stories were not stories. I tell those stories in all my books, but not the like the full details because I went through a lot of traumatic things as a kid. So I used to write fictional stories about those things with myself always as the main character, and I don't like to talk about too much about myself directly, so I just put it into my fictional stories, and try to
Okay.
let the readers discern the fact from the fiction.
Right, right. So with this new book that you have, Brothers and Kings, can you give us a little bit of information on what it's all about?
Okay, that book was actually spurred a moment. Um, I was watching a documentary about blacks in America, and a lot of the speakers in the documentary kept coming back to how the black male image has been portrayed in this country since since slavery through civil rights, Reconstruction, all those things. And as a, I'm not gonna say I'm a typical young black male, but at one point in time I was, with the streets and they're not going to school, getting locked up by the time I was 18 and all that stuff. And I have a very deep perspective on that, on what it's like to be a black man in this country. And our image is very negative. It's a lot of buffoonery going on, a lot of slander, a lot of mud being thrown on us, and we're much more prosperous than that. So
Right.
this at the end of the documentary, this book just popped into my head like throughout the night. I kind of slept on it, and then the next day I just started writing it, and I wanted to show that yes, we do come from some hard backgrounds, but we're more than thugs, we're more than gangsters, we're more than ex-cons. We're much more than that.
Right. And that is so true. And I'm glad that reiterated that because I've been looking at it like as far as like how black people are portrayed, period. Whether if it's the male or the female aspect, and none of them have been positive. The only one that they seem to find with no flaw is Oprah. And I'm like, there's so many more of us in the planet that have a positive background that have made something of ourselves that's not a part of the system or not a part of what they fail to show light on or showcase. And I was just listening to a brother by the name of Dane Calloway, and he has this thing that he put together called Just to Make You Think. And I was listening to the brother break down some information as far as our ancestry and everything that we've been through and how slavery wasn't slavery. It was actually um, things that it was like promises that were made that were not honored. And a lot of it is still going on right now. They just changed the terminology as opposed to slave and slave owner. It kind of went from employee to employer, but the hours are still the same. The pay rate is pretty much still the same, and
Yeah.
it's a negativity that has taken place that has not changed. And one of those things is how the black man is viewed. Um, Most times when you see them, they're in the newspaper or the gotcha paper, or they're in jail, or they're non-existent. If you look at most of the families, the men are not in place. The men are somewhere else other than with their children and the women that they made them by, and there's been a division, and I think that it's been orchestrated kind of sort of to make the black man go those routes, because if a woman is trying to make it and the man is trying to do what he can to make sure she make it and the kids make it, and then she goes to like the system and the system says, well, in order for us to help you, you have to put the black man out for us to help you and the kids. It's like a separation that they have made to make sure that the black man does not prevail. And I've noticed in more families than not, the black male has always had some kind of negative thing going on. Whether if it was they had a drinking problem, they had a drug problem, they had sickness where, most black men have heart trouble and lung disease, and then if you look at the older ones, they too old to make babies, so they don't count. But they find means to discredit and dishonor black men. If you notice, most of the news that you see, they don't care if they're old. They don't care if they're babies. Like the police is shooting the young ones and the old ones. Some of the old ones are getting time in jail, like Bill Cosby, for crimes they couldn't even show proof of. You got people that's dead, Prince and Michael Jackson, that they're trying to discredit. So it's like it doesn't matter, young, old, crippled, crazy, dead or alive. It's like the black man is being scrutinized all the way across the board, and I think that's like the worst thing. And I'm glad you wrote this book. So, can you give us some information about, like, as to like an excerpt or parts of the book that stood out the most to you?
I wrote this particular book in like most novels in fictional form, which none of these events actually took place, but I like to put a certain level of realism into my books that these things can and have taken place. This is not any specific event that happened, but like I said, I wrote it differently because it's only about 5 chapters long, but the chapters are extensive. So each chapter is a story unto itself. Like, there's no continuating characters from one chapter to the next. It deals with different scenarios with each chapter. And I believe I start off the book with about a young man from Chicago who was what you would call typical or the stereotypical young black male, drug dealer, thug, gangbanging. He has that real hard street mentality, but he had a woman in his life that was with him when they were young and when they became adults, when they had children, who she ran the streets as well. But when she had her second child to this brother, her life seems to change, and I saw that a lot growing up. When you get the girls who live life in the fast lane, they partying, getting lit, all that stuff, and then they have kids, and your whole perspective changes because you got this life that you are totally responsible for. And like I said, there's no timeouts for a mother. A father can be in and out if he chooses to, but a mom, it's really hard for her to say, "I don't want to do nothing for my kids." You don't see that too often, especially with black women. It's like their kids become everything to them. And that particular story was centered around I believe the strongest thing a black man can have is a strong black woman, especially one that believes in him and believes he can be better than what he's being. And so he went to prison, you know what I'm saying, behind what he was doing in the streets, and his woman gave him an ultimatum. She was tired of that life. She was tired of him getting shot, him, you know what I'm saying, running the streets, you know what I'm saying, the threat something happened to her and her kids. And she told him at the jail on a visit, she said, plain and simple, you got to make a choice. It's us or some streets. Those things can't coexist at the same time. I'm done. And then she left the jail for him to think about it, and while he did his time, he changed his life. He educated himself. He learned a trade. He left the gang life completely, and he really prepared himself to remember that he is a king, and kings don't indulge in depravity. In the streets is nothing but depravity. So when he came out, she was there, the kids was there. You know what I'm saying? He struggled like most of us do when we get out of jail. It is a hardship. It's a reality, and he stuck with it. And the whole center of that particular story was his woman believed in him, and it made him believe in himself. And that's how he rose to prosperity by the end of that chapter, which he did great. You know what I'm saying? He completed. That was pretty much me, because I have 13 consecutive years not in jail. I said when I got out, I said, look, I ain't my pop. Now I said I'm not going back. And I struggled over these years, But going to jail is something I just didn't want to do anymore. And so that's the image of, oh, you black. Now I'm saying you going back at some point. Nah, you don't have to go back if you don't want to. And when you don't want to, you don't do things that send you back.
Right. Yeah, that is true. It has to be a mindset, and I've seen it times before where people didn't make that shift. It's like the mind did not change. Like, and it hurts the people who care. Especially when they try to invest time and invest messages and try to get that person to understand that the life that they was leading that got them there is not the one that they should have when they get out. And I just had that conversation with somebody like less than 2 days ago. They just got out. I mean, literally fresh off the boat, just got out. And I was like, your main priority should be your two boys. And I guarantee you they spent less than 5 minutes with their sons before they walked out the door and left them again to go do whatever it was that they wanted to do. And I'm like, you didn't learn nothing while you was in there. Like, your whole point of getting out was to make sure that them boys are straight. You did the exact opposite. Like, you walked away from them quicker than you spent time inside. Like, I don't understand how people can do that. And then go and mingle with the people that didn't have no inkling of a thought about you while you was locked up. Never sent you a dime for the phone calls, never came to visit, didn't care. But you gonna roll with them and you gonna hang out with them like they got your best interest. Like, I was like, okay, wash my hands. Whatever happened. I'm not putting no money on no phone if they go back because they haven't learned their lesson. And I'm glad that you're like not one of the ones who went right back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you broke that stigmatism that they have when they say once you go, you in and out. No. If you make it up in your mind not to go back, you don't. Like, if you know that that's just something that you ain't trying to do, then you don't. But you also have to be mindful that you have to be on your P's and Q's even after that. Because some of these states that we live in, they don't carry the 3-time rule. They carry the 2-time rule. So depending on if you up again, there's a possibility that they could send you away for a nonviolent offense for life in certain states on your second strike. So, depending on how bad it is, they're willing to throw the book at you just to make you an example. And it's a lot of men in prison right now because of that. They're in jail right now for offenses that didn't even take a life, and they got life for it. And I don't understand how a system could do that, but then I also understand that none of these systems and rules and things were meant for us to prosper. We're not in the bylaws. We're not in none of these laws and stuff that they made up. There's a whole different set for black people as it is for white. Most white folks, they get a slap on the wrist and that's it. We get the book thrown at us and they don't even apply to us. They don't even consider us as having rights.
That's because we're, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, the way they see it, the Emancipation Proclamation, it died. It was quintessential, so it done died. It's been over 50 years since that was signed. So technically, we reverted back to property. Our status pretty much went back to what it was when slavery time was going on. We just a number when it comes to our Social Security number. So when they look at us, we don't even have rights. That's why we never get fair trial. They have no intentions of doing anything by law in our favor, like ever. So that's why we have to try twice as hard to stay out of trouble, or just to keep the peace. I don't understand how people could put themselves in harm's way. The prisons are terrible. The people get killed and sodomized and all that stuff up in there. That ain't no place for nobody. But you had something you want to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you fine.
Okay, cool. I tried lately, the last few years, I try not to really what they call stand up on a soapbox and preach too hard. But I do have a lot. Like I said, I have a deep perspective on reality. And we were brought here, blacks were brought here as a commodity. And many in many ways, we still are a commodity. It's just not the physical enslavement no more. Now they turned the prisons into the plantation. And that is my firm belief. I will always believe that. Especially with most people do disregard that. Nah, it's like you do the crime, do the time. It ain't just about that. It's not a justice system. It's a business. It's a business. Prisons, whether it's local, whether it's county, state, or federal, for every inmate that is in a cell, money goes to that local economy, into that institution. This is why in my state of Pennsylvania, we have a state prison in almost every single county. And they're always in areas that are not metropolitan. And when you build a state prison here, the local economy booms. Because what happens when you build that prison? You give jobs in places where there are none, and you get local stimulus. And all of a sudden, there's hotels built up there. There's new highways built there. There's restaurant chains and shopping centers. Why? Because you got a couple thousand people from all over the state in this one place. So now what's going to happen is the families are going to come visit them, and they're going to stay there. Some families are coming 6, 7, 8 hours across the state. So they want to shop, they want to eat, they want a place to sleep. So it gives jobs to the people who become prison guards and prison staff, and it builds up the economy. So now everything becomes a crime. They want to give you time for everything, especially if you're black. So that's how I look at it. We're like you said, we're merchandise. We're cash generators. Just like we was when we were picking cotton and cutting down sugarcane and lumber.
Yeah, that's true. That is really true. And see, a lot of people don't realize that the black dollar is pretty much what's running the world. They don't understand how much power and how much control over the economy that we have. We spend trillions of dollars amongst white companies that could care less whether or not we breathing as long as we spending money. Like, it is crazy because, like, if you take an instance like, okay, when the Black Panther movie came out, black people came out by the millions, you know what I'm saying, to support their actual movie because it was the first worldwide released Marvel movie, black character, right? So all of these black people came out. They was Wakanda out. They had African get up. They went. They showed support. They showed love, and that movie grossed billions of dollars. And the crazy thing is, the people who actually performed the movie barely made $1 million. You know what I'm saying? Like the main character, Chadwick. I can't think of his last name, but the actual person who played the Black Panther, he only made like $800,000 off of the movie. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, when it got up in the billions of dollars of revenue that they made, it still went to white hands because Marvel owned the movie rights and all of that stuff. So it's like they still made money. And it's like whenever the actual ethnic background people, whether they're yellow, red, black, brown, however you want to call it, when they do stand up and they do shut stuff down, there's nothing that they can do. I remember like year before last, there was a time that all the black, brown, yellow, Asian, all of them people shut down in D.C. and nobody could even buy a sandwich. Like there was no foot traffic, no nothing, no buses running, no cabs, no eateries, no nothing. Everything had to shut down. There was nothing. And they started paying them people, and they went back to work. You see what I'm saying? So it's like if we were to actually like shift our money in a different direction that didn't go into the hands of them, they be trying to find out a way to make things right to get it back. But even thinking that it matter, like we all get ourselves as individual persons instead of as a group or, you know, as a nation of people. That like if one person stood up everywhere, there's millions of people standing up for the same cause. But they think I'm just one person. Yeah, but if you're one of many, you can do something. But we've been brainwashed and all this other stuff into thinking that what we think don't matter or what we say don't matter, and it's kind of messed up. That's why we don't get nowhere in life, because we choose to deal with what's being handed out. I don't understand how we can't stand up, but it looks like the ones that do try to stand up be the very ones that get killed. So it's like, how do you do it unless you incognito with it? And then once it's out, how do you continue to keep it going without fear of being prosecuted or being killed? I mean, see, that's when you have to have multiple leaders in place, just like how they have multiple leaders in place. When one gets sat down, the next one step up. But they're not thinking on that note. They looking at situations like Nipsey Hussle and how he was doing his thing and he was building up his community, and then what? They shot him. Now what? Like, who did he have to take over his place? I mean, it's not like he didn't know that they was gunning for him, because he said it in a few of his rhymes. You know what I'm saying? Like, me personally, you would think that his brother or something would have been in place, cousin, uncle, somebody he would have had, like, right there on standby. Be like, you take over the store, you put this person next in line, this, that. They didn't have nothing set up. So I'm interested in this book that you have, because you mentioned the word king alongside brothers. And, you know, the first thing that came to mind was Mansa Musa. Because, like, a lot of people don't know that he was the richest king ever. And he was black. But they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to let the world know that there was actually somebody of worth with wealth, with pigmentation in their skin. So give me some reference into the kings that you had in your book.
I didn't mention any particular African king by name, and the kings that I found for the cover were just sort of like showing past black men and future, what we descended from. It's like the three kings on top showing this is where we started, and this is what we are now, and it was sort of like a metaphor. It's like this is what we come from. We all the stuff they want us to believe that we are, and that we've been made to believe that we are. That's not what we are. We came from power. We came from greatness. We came from honor. We came from strength. And I feel like a lot of motivating factors behind the book. I feel like a black man's strength is seen as a threat or as a weapon, because it's like it's to come across something so strong and so noble threatens people of weaker substance. So I just pretty much said, I just wrote the image of kings into the character. So like when you just the word king is a very powerful word in and of itself. When you think of a king, you think of a man of sitting up on the throne, and he just exudes confidence. He exudes strength. And to tap into that kind of energy in modern times, I feel like it was a great thing, but it's seen as a threat, because you can't control a king. You can't manipulate a king. You cannot overpower a king, because he is certain of his power. While someone who wants, I call them colonizers or oppressors, are not of that kind of individual strength. They have to come in. They have to come in mass, and that's how I believe we were overthrown because they came in mass with trickery and with deception. And when you kill the image of a king, you kill the kingdom.
That is so true. And when you take what they know and try to replace it with other things, it messes up the whole trajectory of the people themselves. When you take away their heritage and their culture and their religion and what they believe in and the things that made them prosperous and give them nothing, or give them stuff that's been whitewashed and manipulated, translated, and changed so that they no longer have the power that they normally had. Or either if you give them medications or something like that that cause them to have worse problems than what they already had. Or if you put something in the water to turn most of them that drink it homosexual, you're actually causing the downfall of a species. Because, like, if they're sick, they're not going to be making babies. If they're dead, they can't make babies. And if they're gay, they're not going to make none. You see what I'm saying? So it's like they're trying to extinguish a whole entire race by destroying the male population of the black race. And people are not seeing it on a grand scale as that. I was just listening to the news earlier today, and they had the audacity to reveal now. They revealed that they had viruses, that they had disorders and diseases that were made for black people. They called it kefir killers. And kefir was an actual word that they used in place of the N word for the black race. It's just
South
in another
Africa.
language. Right. So it's in another language. So it's like they have created and designed, and it's crazy because they design these drugs and these disorders and these illnesses and these viruses specifically and particularly for the black male. Do you know they have a diabetes medication right now that has a recall on it because it causes the male genital to turn gangrene and fall off? I've never heard of such a thing. And these things are patent in the U.S. They have a U.S. patent. They were created by somebody. And people don't believe that they weaponizing things to take people out. But if you, I can honestly sit here and say, I honestly believe that they're targeting black males. Because if you look down your family line, I can look down my own family line. And there's not a whole lot of men. The women are pretty much by themselves. My aunt, her husband passed. She has a daughter, so there was no lineage to carry on her father's name. My father passed. I have a son though, so his name kind of like goes through him, but he's only 14, and I'm fearful of anything that they might try to do to him, being that he's so young. But he's not stupid. Even though he's 14, he just got accepted to college, so he's not gonna be one of those ones that they could just run through the mud and think that they could just overdo. You know what I'm saying? He thinks for himself. He's got a awesome brain, and I'm giving him knowledge of understanding beyond the 12 years that they give, which I call it miseducation, because when you go to college, they teach you everything that they taught you for the first 12 years was a lie, and this is the truth. So you go through Black history classes in college, and they debunk everything that you was taught from first to 12th grade. So it's like, and then you have to pay for it. So it's like, you know, when you think about your grandfather, your great grandfather, and all of those other men that you have in your life, they're either sick, dead, or missing or absent. Most of the women are taking care of the children. Most of the grandmas are still living. My grandma will be 88 this year. You know what I'm saying? They're targeting people. And it's crazy that they consider black skin on a male figure a threat. just being black is a threat. I don't understand how to, and what hurts me the most is that all of this stuff could have been changed and rearranged. And I wish the Most High would step in and just wipe all of that out. But, as has been said, time's supposed to wax worse. We're watching it unfold every day. But I just wish that there was a shift in the atmosphere and all of this negativity, all of these white hate, white nationalists, and all this other stuff is just abolished and gone. And because it's sickening. And I think that the you telling like where we came from and where the kings derived from and what we are now. Like, do you feel kind of like what's your stance on that? Like, do you feel like we like the male factor now is like a fall from grace as far as who we once were as opposed to now, or do you feel like there's like a glimmer of hope for the ones who's coming up now that may be able to reestablish our kingdom?
I'll get answer that in two ways. I see a glimmer of hope in those from, I would say, from my generation and older, because we remember the time before all the technological advances and before social media and before certain things have been commercialized, that we were still kind of had that warrior spirit, because I come from the 90s before all this stuff, and I'm with it now in a way, but in a way I'm still kind of like fall back from it because that's not how I came up, and I believe there's still a strength there. Is this the generations that have come after me? I would say after my second brother, I would say it's just got weaker and weaker, and I can blame that on parenting, on the way society operates, but also you gotta go far to the past. And there's a man that most black people don't talk about, and those of a conscious mind do. And that man's called Willie Lynch, and he had a theory and a scientific way of breaking the strong black spirit was by keeping keep the mind but break the body. And now the mind has been broken, because sometimes the things I see when I'm out and about, it's kind of like this. That's why I kind of fall back. It's because it's like, I mean, what do you say to a whole generation or several generations of black males who have pretty much waved the white flag, just on their identity, on their purpose, on even on their what more they can be. I see a lot of weakness. I see a lot of pandering. I see a lot of selfishness, self-centeredness, and this a lack of a spine. I think our heart has been broken. And Willie Lynch said it. He said, if my practices are executed correctly, 300 years from now, we will still own them. And part of my language, that shit is true. I think we have been under assault, and I think you know what I'm saying, that the battle lines have been pushed so far in that when I see certain things, like I'll give you an example. I love my brother, my youngest brother, to death. I'll do anything for him. I never want to see anything happen to him, and I support him. But when I look at I was the firstborn son. He was the last one, and that 14-year gap between us shows the difference. I don't see a whole lot of strength in his presence. I don't see a whole lot of purpose. I don't see a whole lot of meaning in what he does and what he says and how he carries himself. I mean, I don't dog him out. I don't say nothing to him. You know what I'm saying? It's just because when I try to say something to him, it literally goes in one ear and out the other one. And me and my other two older brothers, we like, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we tried. And we're looking at, we're outnumbered by a whole generation of young black men who just, there's no soldier in them. There's no warrior in them. It's just like, but the things they fight for are the things that you are fighting against them.
See, in times like that, it takes multiple people. Not so much as just the other brothers, but it has to be somebody that they respect. Not saying that they don't respect you to a certain degree, but then again, with you being brothers, they consider you their equal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that if the message came from an older head, like great granddaddy, granddaddy, or father figure,
We ain't got
then
none of
it
them.
may, you know what I'm saying? It may be heard when it comes to the younger ones. But see, I've noticed that when you have a young black male with a strong, dominant black male in the household, that whenever the leader says something to the younger boy, he thinks that he automatically bucking on him or fussing at him and stuff like that, and it breaks them to the point to where they feel like they did something wrong, they shameful, they reclusive, they feel there's no toughening of the skin. There's a weakening of the male principle when it comes to how they're supposed to, roll with the punches and stuff like that. There's a lack, there's a divide somewhere, and like mentor program when it comes to the black males trying to get together and trying to lead the way for the younger ones, the younger generations, and get them involved. A lot of tainting that has come along with that people don't trust folks with their children anymore when it comes to leaving them, with other men who thought their children were safe. They're being sodomized and they're being manipulated and they're being used as pawns instead of being taught the way that they should go. Like, things have been manipulated and changed to the point to where who can you honestly trust to give your the younger generations a leg up or to put them ahead of the game. And it's kind of hard to watch. Like, it's really hard to watch to see. Like, right now to this day, like we have to look at our kids and we know that they're not in the shape to survive anything major. Like, you take their cell phone or you cut off the TV or the internet and they almost dead. You know what I'm saying? They don't know anything about hard work. They don't know anything about surviving without those things. Those are not necessities. Those are leisurely things that we use on the regular. So it's like, if they had to plant something or take care of an animal or even open a can of beans, they couldn't do it. They're not equipped. They don't have daddies to show them how to change oil. They don't have, uncles that they can sit under the shade tree with that'll tell them about how to change a manifold or put a timing chain on on a car. They just take the car to a mechanic. What if there's no mechanic? Who do you take it to then? How do you get about? What do you do? You know what I'm saying? Like, they haven't been given survival tips that they need in order to survive. And I feel like that's the thing. A lot of people should step up to the plate. And
I will
keep
be
saying
inclined.
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I apologize. I will be inclined to agree with you in many ways. I do, but from my own perspective, what I see is the disparity is their level of arrogance and their level of I know it all. I'm going to do this. We got a bunch of children posturing as adults with no understanding of nothing. Because the last two generations have been shielded from hardship. I remember when I was a kid, you fell down. My mom told me get my ass up. Now kids fall down. We're having interventions. We're rushing them to the hospital. We're saying we're telling them, well, it's all right. No, get up. My mom, I got chased home from school. My mom locked the door and said, go out there and fight. That's how you let them know that, that's how you build heart. That's how you learn to stop being scared. And I've been a firm believer in hardship builds character. Adversity builds strength. Being told no develops discipline. that you don't just get everything you want. And that's why I said when I use my brother as an example, he was given everything. Everything he had, he got. I'm glad he got it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, my mom got in a position where she can, by the time he came of age and me and the older ones were leaving the house, there was only two younger ones left at home. So she went through the hardship with us in the 80s and 90s for turn of the millennium. My brother and sister got great education, involvement with things, but there was that lack of that hard discipline, that firmness that builds character. They don't have it. And I've been dealing with, since I turned 30. I've been dealing with these younger ones at my various jobs, and I'm looking at them like, wow. And I thought we were bad.
You know what? And I was listening to what you were saying about how things used to be a whole lot different, and I agree. And I see the fight in my son. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that he's a bad child, because he's not. He's been on the honor roll ever since he started, but he's a no nonsense type of child because of how I raised him, and how, even though it's been all women in our family, we go hard. You know what I'm saying? We just as rough and rugged as the dudes. I did more on the outside of the house than I do on the inside of the house. Like, there's nothing you can tell me about my car. There's nothing you can tell me about the things that I need to do. If I need to pick up something that weighs 100-some pounds, I got it, and I walk with it. But that's just how I was raised, because my daddy didn't have no boys. So it's like, I try to instill that in him too. But then I saw that there was like a point in him that had like this fight in him. And I was trying to get him to understand that it's certain things you do and certain things you don't do. Because like there was a particular situation where he was being bullied at school by some white kids. And, he came to me, he was like, Mom, he was like, I thought that all of that racist stuff was over with. Like, why are these people still doing this stuff? He's like, I thought Martin Luther King and Malcolm X died so that we didn't have to go through what we're going through. Now, mind you, he was 10. Now, if he got that back then, you know what I'm saying, I had to let him know, regardless of what you thought as far as what blacks have went through in the past, it doesn't negate the fact that people still on that stupid, simple-minded measure that they think that they better than somebody because of the color of their skin. They're not. They say they supreme, but the only thing I seen supreme by them is they pizza. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at them, they're nothing to gawk at. They're nothing to look at. To be truth be told, they are the lepers of the world. They just don't realize it. They just trying to make themselves seem better, but they lost their pigmentation due to the first original sin when they ended up in the Caucasus Mountains. But see, the thing about it is, like, a lot of people are not getting taught those things. A lot of people don't know the truth about certain things. But, I had to tell him, know and choose and pick your battles. Like, if you square up with somebody and they running away from you after they done hit you, they not about nothing. You know what I'm saying? The last thing you want to do is chase them to try to attack them, because you never know. Wherever they lead you to, it could be 5 or 6 more of them waiting. And then they jumping you. I said, you never chase somebody who's running. I said, but if they squaring up toe-to-toe, yeah, you take it to them. That means they ready to fight. They dare to fight. But when you got somebody that's hitting and running, they scared. And they're not looking to stand around for whatever you got to dish out. So you don't chase them. You know what I'm saying? And then we had to, like, break down the barriers as to, okay, do you hit back, or do you block, or do you, shield yourself and all this other stuff without striking back. So, we literally had to, hit a fine line as to what you can and cannot do when it comes to your livelihood. But you look at all the shootings that they letting the white boys do. You don't see no black boys coming up in no school with no guns. It hasn't happened. I haven't seen it. Every last school shooting that I've ever seen has been white boys. And then they want to say there's a mental defect. All of them crazy? They can't be that crazy if they putting all these things together. They plotting and planning. They waiting until people close their eyes at church. There's it's a mindset that they have, and it's manipulated and messed up. They just messed up individuals. But if there was something that you could tell a young brother right now to get him to change his mindset and to get him to live a life that will revert him back into the ways of what we should be and the example that we should set, what would you say?
I would say if you're okay with how your life is, don't change nothing. Keep doing what you're doing, and I hope for the best for you. But if you have a moment, even just a minute, to think, am I living the best life? Am I honoring my ancestors in any way? If you can answer that question with a yes, then I would say start making the change now. Because when you reach a certain age, you're going to be set in your ways, and change is going to be almost impossible. There's only two types of people in the world. There's wolves and there's sheep. You can't subjugate a wolf. You can't oppress or enslave a wolf, because the wolf's going to fight you even to the death. But a sheep is docile, a sheep compromises, and a sheep capitulates. You can tell it you can do anything you want with a sheep, and there's far too less wolves in this world and too many sheep, because we stopped being taught to be warriors. And being a warrior isn't about armed physical aggression. Being a warrior is just some mind state and how your heart is conditioned to say you should not be referring to a woman as a bee. You should not pander to get ahead. You should not give in when you should stand. And you should not run away from a fight. Sometimes you're going to get hit. Sometimes it's going to hurt. But if you can take it, then you stand. And I don't see that no more.
Right. Well, see, we gotta keep giving it to them, regardless of how much we think we run. You know, it's going in one end out the other. Eventually, when that light bulb do click on, they're gonna be like, "Big Bro been telling me that for the longest time, and I ain't even hear him." You know what I'm saying? But I hear you now. Hopefully, that light bulb come on quick. You know what I'm saying? Because like normally, like you said, when you hit about 30. That's when the light bulb come on. And either you doing right by then, or either you just simple-minded and it's just not going to change. Like something got to rock your knot in order for you to get right. But most times, around 30 is when your light bulb come on. And you be like, okay, I'm too old for this. I need to get my life together. I need to do this, do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I applaud you for putting this book out. Matter of fact, when did you drop it? Like, when did it come out?
Oh, that book, I believe it came out a few months ago. Maybe a month, maybe two. I put out a lot of work, so it's sometimes hard for me to keep track of the dates. It's like,
okay, so
I write a book, it drops, I go right to the next one. Huh?
Okay. What do you have out right now other than this book? What else should we be looking for?
I have because I publish independently, and I'm signed with Soldier Chalk Presents, and I try to balance that out. So I'll drop an independent book, and then I'll get my publisher work. I recently released I would call it a LGBT erotica, because that was a particular thought line I was having. So I told my publisher that I would write one along that content level. So that's how, I pretty much, I drop books like at least 2-3 a month. on a good
Oh,
month.
you doing you doing good then.
Uh,
So
My goal this year was
just
13 books. I think I've exceeded that.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, you definitely have to give us a lineup and let us know what to look out for. Also, where can we reach you? Like, what's your contact information when it comes to social media?
I can mostly be reached on my Facebook at Ty Robinson or at my email, TyLegend365@gmail.com. I have Instagram. I'm not on it very often. I have Twitter. I'm not on it very often. I'm mostly reached through Facebook or through email.
Okay, and do you have any events that are coming up in the near future that we should know about?
No events. I'm not really an event guy. I feel like I'm a voice, not a face. Because I'm kind of reclusive in a way. I'm not really. I'm going to do events eventually, but I do have a follow up to Brothers and Kings. Now that I told the black man's story, the follow up book that's going to be called Sisters and Queens. I'm doing the black women's version.
Okay, I hear you. What's that supposed to be all about? I mean, because I pretty much got an idea because we did go from Queens to like lower levels of Homo sapiens. I mean, I think it's bad. I mean, because it goes across the board. There are females who carry themselves in an upright way, and then there's some that just don't care. And I don't understand how they don't care. I just don't understand how they just don't care. Like they got children, they don't care. They leave them with whoever they see fit to leave them with, or either they just abandon them all together in the house for 4-5 days at a time. I don't understand.
To answer your question, Sisters and Queens is going to be the direct match of Brothers and Kings. It's going to just be told with female characters this time. It's going to be the same format, 5 or 6 stories of different black women in different scenarios, different social standings, and different tales. You know what I'm saying? It's still the same theme to show hardship, adversity, you know what I'm saying, rising above bad situations and circumstances. And both books are they're at their core, they're meant to be inspirational. To show you just because you fall, you can get back up, or you can just remember where you came from. And once you tap into that energy, I believe it can carry you.
That's so true.
So that was at the request of several female writers. They enjoyed the Brothers and Kings, and they hit my inbox and was like, "Hey, are you interested in doing one for the sisters?" I said I was until y'all said it.
Right, and sometimes that's how it happens. You write one book with no intention of it being any other parts, but it's so asked for that you end up bringing another part into, almost making it a box set. Because, I mean, truth be told, you could have, your mothers and fathers or your sisters and brothers and go, that far as what it's supposed to be as far as, like, the family structure. But, there's definitely different areas that you can go in when it comes to the lives of our people and what they need to know and what they should know and what should be implemented when it comes to our standards of living, because we are definitely lacking in a few departments. But the last thing that I wanted to give you an opportunity to do was to give your shout outs to anybody that you may have right now, because we're coming up on the close of our hour.
All right. I want to give a shout out to Soldier Chop for signing me and making me a part of the family. Now, I appreciate all the love and support that I get from Mo and from Nakia and Tosh, Kincaid, and the whole group, and my girl Paulette. That's my buddy. Give a shout out to Jane, who's like one of my biggest fans, and to my bestie, Lachey Perkins. She know I got mad love for her, and Sabrina Jenkins, Tasha Levette, and everybody that I've connected with since I got signed. I'm saying since I really my name's got out there, I've developed a lot of good friendships, a little brotherhood and sisterhood with a lot of other authors. All their work is dope. I support them. I know they support me, but I will support them whether they were support me or not.
That's so awesome, and I'm so glad that you were able to take out this time to be on the show today because like I say on every show, it wouldn't be nothing without you here, and I've seen your name around, so you're definitely getting around. So I look
Thank you.
forward to any coming from you in the near future and everything. And please stay connected because I like to know what's going on even after the fact of this interview. And also, just to let you and everybody else know that's tuning in and listening in, you will have the opportunity to hear this interview live. Also, you'll be able to hear it after the fact. It should be available on our YouTube channel. So if you have a moment of your time on May 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard, you should be able to hear this full interview with Brother Ty Robinson. And like I said, I want to thank you for being on the show today. This meant a lot to me.
Thank you.
You are most welcome. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Brother Ty Robinson. Y'all be looking out for him. Find him on Facebook. Show your love. Stay connected. And we'll see you next week. And Ty, you
Thank
take
you.
care, okay?
You
You're
too.
most welcome. All right.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
You are live at the Literary Lounge with your host, Destiny D, bringing you the newest and the brightest of the literary world right to your ear hole. Every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tune in, listen up, and learn something.
All right, guys. Make sure you are tuned in next week where our special guest will be none other than Alicia Morris.
This is the spot for new hot authors who are given the opportunity to shine. Each Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will showcase a new author here at the Literary Lounge. We are taking out the time to give all of our literary friends an opportunity to showcase their work. The New Author Spotlight is a platform that allows us to ask up to 10 questions or more to give you, the audience, the most in-depth current information about each writer in their literary piece. We will have a new guest every week. Stay tuned.